I'm not. No, I need to know that I'm talking through the mic. I don't hear the mic. Try it. There we go. The only reason that I actually do that is because it will not, when I pull the recording up, if I'm not talking through the mic, it's, and could be quite entertaining to just watch somebody kind of wave their hands in the air, but not really inspiring. So today we're going to do something different. I decided I've done this once before, and I'm going to do it again today. You all got a 3x5 card. So I invite you to write a question on your card, a spiritual question on your card. Not just any question, but a spiritual question that you would like to have answered, or that you would like to know more about, or you would like to hear me say, I don't know. So it's just whatever question comes up for you. You know, if you have a question about what Unity believes about something, or whatever. Anybody need pens? This gentleman needs pen. So I'm going to give you just a couple of seconds to write down your question. And don't think too hard, because remember, I have to be able to answer it. And I'll tell you that there's a couple of reasons why I'm doing this. One is because Spirit told me to on the way over. I actually had that talk ready. So it's not like, well, I didn't get my talk ready, so you guys get to ask me questions. The other reason is because as we're moving through this transition time, it would be really helpful to the board so that we can know what kind of topics so the board and the spiritual leadership team will know what type of topics to bring in, what kind of speakers to bring in for the topics. Yeah. And Christina's going to come around and collect them. And if you're not ready, then she'll probably come around twice to collect them. Oh, and I should say, write it so I can read it.
Careful what you ask for, you won't get it.
Here, Christine, why don't you hand me a few of those?
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, interesting. Huh?
What time is dinner?
What time is dinner?
What's for dinner?
That's a question I ask all the time. What's for dinner? Oh, that's cool. Okay. So this first one, it was truly the top one on the pile. How do you feed spiritual hunger in an immediate way such that it can stop addictions or the power of their pull? That is a huge question. I can say that for myself, we all have addictions. So this question wouldn't just be for, someone who is facing a particular, like say an alcoholic or drug addiction or that. We all have addictions. Addictions are those traits, those habits that we have that pull at us that, I gotta have it. We can have an addiction to shopping. We can have an addiction to being with people. We can have addiction to making everybody okay. We can have an addiction to a lot of different things. And so to ask how do I feed my spiritual hunger? It's really, for me, it's about having a practice, a consistent spiritual practice. Not just on Sunday morning, not just when the stuff hits the fan, but a consistent spiritual practice. And one of the things that I have found in having a consistent spiritual practice is that there's some days that I sit down in my chair and boom, I'm there. I am centered, I'm there. There's other days where it's like, oh, what's on my to-do list today? And I have to laugh. What's for dinner? Because I might need to take something out of the freezer in order to make dinner. So what's for dinner? Yeah. What's on the grocery shopping list? What do I need to pick up at the store? Oh yeah, I need to remember to call so-and-so. And so it's about having a spiritual practice of mindfulness where I bring, once we recognize that we're in that place of the mind's going off over here, it's like, oh, let me bring it back. And so for me, there's two ways that I bring it back. The breath. I watch my breath. I feel it go in and I feel it come out. And I concentrate on it coming in and I concentrate on it going out. The other way to do it is to focus on a word, to choose just a word, a shorter word, a 1 or 2 syllable word, and just focus on that word and allow that word to take you into that place. And trust that whatever needs to happen in that moment is happening in that moment. Whatever needs to happen is happening. So the next question is, how do I show love to others who seem so hateful? A good question, huh? Yeah. How do I show love to others who seem so hateful? The practice of compassion actually was one of the 3 keys. The practice of compassion. And compassion actually means being with someone who's in pain. So it's actually being present with someone who's in pain, and someone who is acting hateful is in pain. Now, does that mean that we're going to go purposely hang out with people who are being hateful? No. But what we can do is we can remember that they're acting that way out of their own fear, out of pain. They're in pain of some kind. And in that moment, they have forgotten who they are. And if we're in a place where we are remembering who we are, then we can have that compassion for them and we can send them a blessing. We can say a prayer for them in that moment of, may you, to send them a blessing of, may you be at peace. Just whatever blessing comes to mind in that moment. And they may not change the way they act, but I can guarantee you that the energy that we send out makes a difference. It absolutely makes a difference. And so to me, that's how I can show love to someone who is being hateful. Not to run away from them, but not to engage either, not to come down to that energetic level and, kind of join in, but to raise my vibration up and send a blessing and recognize that they're in pain. Okay, so this actually came up a couple of times. This one is, what does unity state regarding reincarnation? And then this one says, what does Charles Fillmore teach about the afterlife, i.e., reincarnation? So what I was taught in school is that unity does not have a stand on reincarnation. That it's an individual, it's one of those things that we don't have a dogma about. I would say personally, there's that saying of, about life on other planets, that there's that saying of, if we were the only ones out of the entire universe, that, how sad that would be. I do believe that that we can choose to come back. I also believe it. You heard me say I believe it's a choice. So I don't, for myself, and that's all I can speak to is for myself. I don't believe that it's mandatory. It's because this isn't like a school, the only school, and that if you don't get it right this time, you're gonna come back. And you might not come back as a human, okay? So for me, it's really about evolution and evolving, and where we choose to shine our light and how we choose to shine our light. Because I don't believe that we cease to exist when we die. So if I don't cease to exist, then there has to be something beyond this existence, right? So if there's something beyond this existence, then just as I have choice here, I believe I have choice there. And that we can choose to come back and play. I call this place, I call Earth Disneyland. It's the spiritual Disneyland, because it is the place where we have the potential to create. Now, I don't know about what happens anywhere else in the universe, but on this planet, we have the potential to create. And so I think of it as our spiritual Disneyland. And so I do believe in reincarnation, but I don't believe that we necessarily reincarnate here. And like I said, Charles Fillmore did not have a stand on it, although Charles Fillmore did believe in reincarnation. Huh? He did. He did, but he said that it was not, that Unity didn't take a stand on it. There were other things that were more important to take a stand on than whether we came back or not. Oh, look, see, it says, why do we reincarnate here? What's the point? I'm taking this home with me. I don't know who wrote this, but I love this. A sister or brother of my own heart. Yeah. Ooh, here we go. The chosen people. Growing up, we heard this in temple. It seems odd. Does Unity regard any group as the chosen people? No. No. The way Unity looks at spirituality is that there are many paths. There's one God, one mind, but there are many paths. And the way I like to look at it is like it's a big puzzle, like this big universal puzzle. And it's got Hindus and Muslims and Buddhists and Sikhs and Jewish people and Christians and Zoroastrists and whoever else, Wiccans, and everybody is in the puzzle. And everybody has a place in the puzzle. And in Unity, actually, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore were very eclectic in their beliefs, as Myrtle would put it. And they studied Hinduism and Buddhism. And they incorporated some of those teachings into Unity principles, because what Charles said was, if it's truth, it's always true. And it's true across all religions. And he didn't believe that one religion had the right answer. So, and he would say, Unity does not have a market on the right answer. We don't have the right, but that it takes all of us together to create this big picture that we call the divine. And that is that all of us are in this great big picture called the divine, that when we express our true nature, when we express who we've come here to be, then the picture becomes truly whole. And so there isn't a particular religion. And the other thing that Charles Fillmore said that I absolutely love is he said that he looked for similarities rather than differences. So, that natural tendency that we have in our humanness is to go to the negative. Okay, what's different about this? I mean, we're taught that in school. Which one of these things is not like the other? Find the one that's different. And he said, let's look at the similarities. What are the similarities that we hold and celebrate those similarities? So rather than arguing with people about what we believe versus what they believe, it's about what are the similarities that we hold? And how do we express that? And how do we express that together? What do you think of Neil Donald Walsh's Conversations with God? Wow, I haven't read Neil Donald Walsh's Conversations with God in a really long time. However, I think there's a lot of good stuff in there. And actually, I think that, that in that writing, because he asks a question and he receives an answer, he is really listening to that divine presence, and he's writing down what he hears from that divine presence. The other part of this was, or if not him, A Course in Miracles. And so I'm going to take a stretch here and think that the question might actually be about channeled material. Material where someone feels that they're receiving an insight directly from spirit and writing it down. I absolutely believe that happens more than we know. Way more than we know. Because when a spiritual teacher is writing, the spiritual teachers I know that are writing, they're listening to that divine presence within. It's not coming from up here. It's not, oh gee, what should I write about? What will make me look really good? But they're listening deeper down within themselves. And truths come up that even might take them by surprise. And they go, whoa, I never thought of it that way. And so I do believe that there are those truths. A Course in Miracles, there are some similarities with A Course in Miracles and Unity, and there are some differences, just like with everything. And so it's not an either or, it's what feeds your spiritual soul in the moment, and being able to go there. I don't know the answer to that question. Okay, so this is the question, and I'll tell you, I don't know the answer to it. Why Fillmore's? Same time as Theosophy versus Protestant Reformation, Transformation. I'd have to think about that one for a much longer period of time, and I will. It's because it's a good question. It's a good question. Okay. What tools are helpful for thinking spiritually about the war, Russia on Ukraine? Wow. So again, for me, that that question comes up with also the question about, being with people who are hateful. Because what we hear in the news is them versus them, and these guys are the bad guys and these guys are the good guys. These guys wear the black hats and these guys wear the white hats. And for me, rather than getting into who's right, who's wrong, what's happening, what's again, for me, it's about raising my consciousness and saying, may you be at peace. And living at peace myself. Living from that consciousness of peace. Because if I am engaged in the good versus the bad versus the good and get all worked up in that, then what's the energy that I'm sending out into the world? The energy I'm sending out into the world is more conflict, more hatefulness. But if I can center myself and raise my vibration up and be able to say, may you be at peace. May you live with ease. May you be happy. That if I can do that, then that's the energy I'm sending out. And so if I want to make a difference in areas of the world, including the United States, that has conflict, then that's my spiritual work. My spiritual work is to be in a place where I'm sending out the energy, really consciously sending out the energy of peace. So I'm going to answer one more question. How do I understand the difference between my desires and what God has for me? That's a good question. Because so often, it's like, well, what I really want is, you want that for me, right? And we're looking out there, like, you want that for me, right, God? Right? You want that for me. Daddy, please give me. So, oh Lord, won't you give me? So that might be my desire. For me, knowing the difference between my desire and God's desire is I don't have an attachment to it. I don't have that pull. Gotta have it. I gotta have it. We have that. And I don't have buyer's remorse. There's a peace around it. If I'm buying something, if I'm looking at the difference between my desires and what God has for me, to me, that's about talking about the will of God versus my will. And as some of you have heard me say many times, there is no difference between God's will and your will, your true will, the will of your spirit. Now, that's not the ego will. The ego will kind of runs amok. But that true will that is within us, and that true will within us is not going to harm anyone else. It cannot take anything from anyone else. it only adds to the good. It only adds to the good. And so to me, you know how I know the difference between my desires and God's desires? Is when my ego goes bananas. When that idea comes in and my ego starts going, oh no, we're not going there. You don't have enough money. You don't have the right education. You don't have the wherewithal. You don't, whatever it is that you lack so that you can't do it. Because the ego wants to keep us safe. And so if it's an ego idea, the ego is going to go, oh, this will satisfy you for a while. But then for that divine, because the divine is always calling us forward. It's always calling us to express more of who we are. And so as we express more of who we are, the ego kind of goes, And so we just have to let the ego kind of do its jump up and down thing for a few minutes. Because that's the other thing, is the ego doesn't jump up and down very long. It doesn't have that much energy if we don't give it energy. And so knowing the difference between my will and God's will really is, for me, there is no difference between my will and God's will. And that because I have free will and I might make a choice about something, I always have the right to change my mind. Always have the right to change my mind. There are very few things in life that we don't have the opportunity to change our mind about. We can always change our mind and say, well, that's not working out the way I thought it would. The thing is that God's not judging us. There's not this judgment that's going on that says, you have to do it this way. This is, and we're so geared to doing it right. At the end of this life and I'm graded, I need to get straight A's.
Or the gold star.
Or the gold star. Or as a therapist once said to me, he asked me if I was going to get a bigger crown than everybody else. I knew the answer was supposed to be no. While I was thinking, by God, I'd better. This was way many years ago, okay? Not last week. I am not there anymore. But there's that thinking of, I need to do it right. I need to do it right. I need to do it right. What if there's no right way? What if there's no right way? Just as we listen to we learn to listen to that spirit within us, and we follow that spirit, then that's right for us. So let's take a moment in meditation. And thank you for your questions. I actually thoroughly enjoyed that. Thank you for your questions. So as we breathe into this moment, breathe into the energy in this room, breathe into that energy within our own hearts. We open ourselves to the love, the wisdom that is God right here, right now, around me, within me, as me. owning those words, saying them in your own mind, the divine presence around me, in me, as me. We are the divine in expression. And as we are the divine in expression, we open ourselves to that love, the peace, the joy that truly is ours right now. And I invite you in this moment that if there is a place, a person, a situation that you would send a blessing to, that you send that blessing in this moment. Feeling that blessing within you and having that blessing flow forth. We celebrate in this very moment, each and every person in this room, and all those who could not be with us today, all those who are to come. We send blessings of love and light, of healing, of peace. And we hold in our hearts any truths that we took in today. And we allow Spirit to work with those truths. That they become a part of who we are. That we may truly make a difference in the world. And so it is.